Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers. I thank everybody that's involved with this process, because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers.
Experience is not about the publisher, it is about us, the authors.
Good morning. Good to be with you again. Reverend Mike Lavery here with my book, Lucius, A Soldier's Journey. We're flying low today. We're flying low and fast. We're going to see Arius is dying. We're going to see him healed miraculously today. So Lucius has gone to do his duty. He's gone to hear the teacher speak. He's heard him speak, and now he's watching him as he heals the sick. Lucius watched in awe as the doubts he harbored were dispelled by the teacher's power. The lame, whose legs were twisted beyond any recognition, were made whole by the teacher's touch. Every physical infirmity was addressed. As the crowd thinned, the lepers came up shouting, "Unclean, unclean!" The teacher touched them, and they unwrapped their bandages, and the skin of a child was revealed. Lucius concluded that the teacher was not a man, but was indeed God in the flesh. So now Lucius has come to this conclusion of his own accord by seeing what he's seen, and now he returns to the rabbi at the Gaius, and they're preparing to head back to Capernaum. And as they're picking up their packs to leave, a voice is heard. Lucius and Gaius picked up their packs, and the small company started on its way. Suddenly Lucius heard a voice call out, good Roman, please wait." Lucius turned to see two people approach. As they drew nearer, he could make them out. It was Isaac and Elizabeth. Isaac had tears rolling down both of his cheeks as he walked up to Lucius and embraced him. Then Elizabeth approached, kissing Lucius on his cheek. Lucius could not believe what his eyes were seeing before him. The gaunt, ashen woman he had carried on his back for 2 miles was gone. Before him stood an attractive woman with plump, rosy cheeks. "You made it to the teacher?" Lucius asked. "Yes, good Roman," Elizabeth answered. "He placed his hands on my head and prayed. Then he looked at me and said, 'According to your faith be it unto you.' I believe, good Roman. I believe he is the promised one with all my heart. I felt the plague wash away as if driven by an ocean wave. Before we returned home, Elizabeth insisted we had to try to find you to let you know that we were all right." Lucius reached out and embraced them both. "I'm so glad you did. You've been in my thoughts." Isaac put down his small pack and from it withdrew the harness. I have nothing to give you, good Roman, but I want you to take this harness. When you look upon it, remember us. And always remember, with faith, all things are possible. They bowed to the rabbi and his family and Gaius, and then departed hand in hand. Lucius stood and watched as they walked away, the harness in his hand. What a precious gift, the rabbi said. Yes, answered Lucius, I will cherish it forever, and when I see it, I will always think of them. So now they're on their way back to Capernaum, and as they walk along, the rabbi notices that Lucius is very sullen and silent, and the rabbi sensed he was troubled and approached him. Good friend, is all well? Lucius shook his head. I fear for my beloved Arius, good rabbi. I fear to arrive home and find him dead. Lucius held up the harness that was in his hand. I carried a woman 2 miles on my back with this harness. Her husband carried her for 10 miles before that, because the doctors had told him his wife was beyond hope. The teacher was her only hope. There is no hope for Arius. He even now is near death. I believe his only hope is the teacher. He should be in Capernaum by mid-morning. Come to him, good Lucius, the rabbi suggested. Oh, nice to see you here again, Michael. Thank you, Len. Good to be here. Lucius shook his head. These hands of mine drip with the blood of so many. Besides this, I am a Gentile, and a Roman Gentile at that. Oh, Kathy Barnes says, good day, excited for today's session as Lucius finally meets Jesus. Yes, he does. Today he does. These hands of mine drip with blood, the blood of so many. Besides this, I am a Gentile, and a Roman Gentile at that, unworthy to approach unto such a holy man. Good friend, could you possibly intercede for me, for the sake of my dearly beloved Arius? The rabbi smiled and clutched Lucius by the shoulder. I will intercede for you and for your beloved Arius. With greatest joy, the rabbi answered. So they come to Capernaum. Oh, good day, Ethan. Good day as always. It's great to be here. Good to have you, Ethan. Glad you're here with us. So here we go. They get back to Capernaum. Oh, Ethan, listening to his journey, I can see Lucius' transformation, like that of Paul the Apostle. Yes, Lucius is transforming, no doubt about it. The Lord is really working on his heart. Now he gets back home and he discovers when he goes back to his house that now Arius is in a coma. As Mark said, the doctor told him, Dr. Samuel was with them most of the day, and the good doctor told them that Arius was in the throes of death. He was in a coma, and from which he would never come out. And all hope was basically lost. And now Lucius talks to Mark, and he says, tomorrow he comes to Capernaum. I do not feel worthy to approach such a holy man. I am a Roman and a Gentile. I have shed much blood. I know the teacher is more than a holy man. He is not of this world. The rabbi knows the teacher. I have asked him to intercede on my behalf, which the rabbi has agreed to do. The teacher is our only hope. Do you think he would come to the house of a Roman? Mark questioned. Yes, I do. Listening to this man speak leads me to believe he is no respecter of persons. The man laid his hand on lepers and healed them. I don't think my Roman background would be a hindrance to him. How early will he be here? Mark frantically inquired. The rabbi said the teacher should be here by mid-morning. Mark sat in silence for a moment. Lucius sensed that something was very wrong. Mark, you are troubled. Why? As I told you, Master Lucius, Dr. Samuel spent a good portion of the day with us. Later in the day, Dr. Silva also dropped in. Dr. Samuel later spoke to me in private and told me that Arius, very likely would not live out the day tomorrow. Even now, Arius is in the sleep of death. Oh, Judith J. Barton. Hello, Reverend Michael. Hello, Judith. He is now even in the sleep of death. And he explains that he's not going to live out the day tomorrow. The doctors did not believe Arius would live out the day. So he was hoping that the teacher would come quick early because he didn't believe he would live out the day. So we're looking now and we're seeing the next day dawns, and there's a knock at the door, and Lucius answers, and it's Dr. Samuel. He says, "Good morning, Commander. I must say a sizable crowd had already gathered in the city center. There's great expectancy. People are excited to see the teacher. Did you happen to see General Gaius or any soldiers?" Lucius questioned. "Oh, yes. The good general greeted me. He has stationed his men in a large circle around the city center. It is not a large contingent. All the roads are open." "Very good," Lucius quit. "That's exactly what I want him to do." Within an hour, Dr. Silva appeared. "Commander, I've never seen such traffic come by the Wilderness Road." Lucius opened the shutters. "Oh, Pauline J. Duggan, it's hard to believe that today is day 10. Good day, Pastor. Good day to you. Yeah, the time flies." Lucius turned to Mark. Now this crowd is gathering. He knows the teacher's coming. Lucius turns to Mark. "I need you, Mark. Come with me." He led Mark into the kitchen. He stood before him. "Hi, Reverend. Welcome back." "Hi, Jessa. Good to see you." "Mark, I need you. Mark, come with me." He led Mark into the kitchen. He stood before him with his hands on his shoulders. He spoke directly into Mark's face. "Do you understand?" Lucius asked. Mark nodded. "Go then. Go quickly," Lucius said, patting Mark's back. As Lucius turned, he came face to face with Chloe. "Master Lucius, where have you sent Mark?" she asked. "I have sent him on a most important errand," Lucius responded. "An errand? His brother is ready to die at any time, and you sent him on an errand?" A look of rage came over Chloe's face. "How could you be so cruel to deny a brother his final opportunity to say goodbye?" Lucius took Chloe by her shoulders and looked directly into her rage-filled eyes. He spoke to Chloe in a voice soft and gentle. "This was the most important errand I have ever sent Mark on. It had to be done, Chloe. Do you trust me?" Lucius asked. Suddenly the look of rage melted away. Chloe nodded. I do, Master Lucius." Lucius hugged her tightly and whispered in her ear, "Then trust me now. Trust me, please, my dear Chloe." Oh, James A. Abrams. "Good day, everyone. I have been following this session. Happy to be here. Happy to have you. Happy to have you, Jeanette. Happy to have you." Mark ran into the city center. Now Mark has been sent on an errand. He runs into the city center. A huge crowd had gathered about the platform. Suddenly, Mark could see the rabbi climb atop the platform, followed closely behind by a man Mark knew was the teacher. Many of the crowd began to chant, "Hosanna, Hosanna." Some people sang aloud. It was indeed a joyful tumult. The teacher scanned the crowd, then pointed to the finished synagogue. The crowd cheered when the rabbi raised his arms. The crowd silenced as the rabbi addressed the teacher. "Good teacher, before we go to our newly completed synagogue, I must speak to you. I must tell you of my friend. And not my friend only, but a friend to many gathered here. The man of whom I speak is Lucius, the Roman commander of this Roman garrison. Even now, good teacher, his beloved servant is laid very near death. He has besought me to intercede on his behalf because he felt unworthy to approach unto a man of your holy stature, good teacher. The completed synagogue you see before you is due to his kind benevolence. I pray, good teacher, show kindness to this good man." Suddenly a voice cried out of the crowd, "He is worthy of it. He is worthy of it, Lord. He protects us from the publican. Suddenly a few voices rose into a chorus. He saved us from the zealots. He brought back our children. He returned to us our confiscated properties. A chant of he is worthy rose above the tumult. The teacher scanned the crowd, then addressed the rabbi. Good rabbi, lead me to the house of this man. The crowd cheered as Mark stood, tears of joy coursed down his cheeks. The selfless kindness of his beloved master at last came to light. As the procession came to the city gate, Mark made his way through the crowd and fell on his knees before the teacher. He clutched the teacher's ankles and kissed his feet. Mark could hear the rabbi's voice as he explained to the teacher who it was that kissed his feet. This is Mark, good teacher. He is also a servant of the commander. His brother Arius lay near death. Mark at last looked up into the eyes of the teacher's eyes so dark and piercing, yet to Mark so gentle and filled with compassion. Most holy teacher, I bring you greetings from my master Lucius the Roman. My master sends his regrets that he did not come to greet you, but being a soldier of Rome and having shed blood, he felt unworthy to approach unto one so holy. He is ashamed that you should even enter into his house. But while your courses are very different, my master knows, in one respect, you and he are the same. You are both men of authority. My master has soldiers and servants under his authority. He says to a soldier, go, and he goes. He says to another, come, and he comes. He says to his servants, do this, and we do it. My master knows that you are a man of authority, good teacher. All you need do is say the word, and his servant shall be healed. As Mark looked into the teacher's face, he could see his eyes begin to glisten. The teacher reached out his hand and clutched Mark's bad shoulder. Usually a simple touch of the wound would double Mark up with horrible pain, but much to his surprise, though the teacher clutched the area, Mark felt no pain. Then the teacher turned to face the crowd, raising his hands. I tell you the truth, I have not seen so great a faith, not among the Jews. Of a truth I tell you, in that day there shall be those who come from the east and the west, who shall sit down at the table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, while the children of the promise shall be cast into outer darkness, where there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. The teacher then turned again to Mark and clutched his shoulder yet again. Go your way and tell your master his servant lives. The procession turned and headed toward the synagogue. As the rabbi turned, he smiled and nodded at Mark. Mark stood for a moment, taking in all that had just happened. Then suddenly he came to his senses and he ran to deliver the teacher's message. Mark ran to the house as fast as his feet could carry him. He burst through the door crying out, Master Lucius, the teacher says Arius lives. As Mark entered the room, he beheld Arius sitting up with Chloe hugging him tightly. Lucius stood with his hands clasped and tears rolling down his cheeks. Dr. Silva sat with a smile on his face and an obvious look of confusion. Dr. Samuel stood with his eyes raised to heaven. Oh, Jeanette. Hi, Reverend. Welcome back. Hello. Thank you, Jeanette. Chloe turned and faced Mark. The look on her face, Mark would never forget. Chloe glowed as if a light that had been put out had been rekindled again. Mark, Arius is well, she so joyfully exulted. Arius looked up into his brother's eyes. My brother, he cried, reaching out his hand for Mark. Mark embraced his brother in Chloe. Lucius stood, hands still clasped, tears most unashamedly flowing down his cheeks as he witnessed a most glorious sight he thought he should never witness again, his family in joyous embrace. Suddenly Arius spoke up. Chloe, I'm so very hungry. Have we any food in the house? The room filled with laughter. Arius was definitely back in the land of the living. What would you like? Chloe asked. With that, Arius climbed out of bed and said, I don't know. Let's go look. With that, he left the room and headed for the kitchen area. Master Lucius, I will make a feast. Dr. Samuel, I'll make food for you. Dr. Silva, I know you love all food. Please stay. Rejoice with us. Oh, there's such great rejoicing. Arius is well. And not only is Arius well, but later when Chloe went to change the dressing on Mark's wound, she discovered that that grievous, hideous wound was gone. And it was as if it had never been there. So the teacher also healed him. Now we're moving right along here. Lucius, the next day, Lucius wants to find the teacher. And he goes out into the wilderness. He goes out into the wilderness to find the teacher. And what does he find? He finds that he goes to the wilderness outpost, to the outposts of Croesus and Octavian. He visits them, and then he goes looking for the teacher. He's thinking maybe he's out here in the area somewhere, and he searches for him, and he finds him at the city of Nain. But before we get there, that night they have a great feast, and that night, when everything's over and everybody's gone, Lucius cannot sleep. His mind is just racing. So many miraculous things that happened that day that he lay upon his bed unable to sleep. At last he rose and he went to the back of the house and started a fire. As he sat in the darkness looking in the star-filled sky, he thought of the teacher. His mind still reeled from the occurrences of the day. And then he says, "Good teacher, what can I say?" Lucius cried out. "I thank you, good teacher, for the kindness you have shown one as unworthy as myself. For I have shed much blood in my life as a soldier. This truth has never been a source of pride to me, good teacher. But alas, I would gladly know you better, kind teacher. But alas, I am an ignorant man. Look upon me and pity me. Have mercy upon me, good teacher. Good teacher, as you brought my beloved servant back from the brink of death and healed my other servant from a wound most grievous, heal me, good teacher, from the wounds I bear inside, wounds that no eye sees, but wounds that are ever so grievous." Suddenly Lucius dropped his head and began sobbing uncontrollably. In the wilderness, about 3 miles from Capernaum, the teacher and his disciples made their camp. As a meal was being prepared, the teacher suddenly stood to his feet and walked off into the darkness alone. When the food was ready, one of the disciples went to tell the teacher. He found him sitting in the darkness, staring into space, his head tilted as if listening for something. "Master, the food is ready," he called, but the teacher did not respond. As the disciple cautiously drew nearer, he could see the sparkle of tears upon his master's cheek. Yes, Lucius cried out. He cried out to the teacher, and the teacher heard him and listened to him. And we see there's so many men like Lucius. Oh, they may not have sickness. They may not have external wounds that are visible to the naked eye, but they have wounds inside, wounds that nobody sees. But they're there, they're grievous, they hurt. And Lucius prays and says, "Oh, Jesus, heal me Good teacher, heal me of my grievous wounds that no one sees. And Jesus hears him. Jesus hears him. So that's the healing of the centurion's servant. Now we see that Jesus goes out into the wilderness and he's looking for Jesus, and amazingly he finds him. He comes to this city called Nain, and he had heard from the rabbi. The rabbi told him, when he asked the rabbi where was the teacher going from Capernaum, he said, well, he's on his way to Jerusalem for the Passover, but he'll probably pass through some villages on his way. He'll probably pass on through some villages as he goes through the wilderness. And so Lucius is looking for him. He and Gaius go looking for Jesus because he wants to thank him. He wants to thank him for healing his servant. And as they're looking, as they followed the wilderness road, they came to a spur that led to a small walled city. They took the spur and headed for the village. As they reached the main gate, they were confronted by a large procession coming out of the city. Lucius and Gaius pulled their horses off the road to let the procession pass. As the procession came forth, it was led by a bier. Upon the bier lay the body of one freshly wrapped for burial. Behind the bier, two men held up a woman so bowed with grief she could not hardly walk. As Lucius beheld her, he saw himself only yesterday. He stood at the bedside of his dear Arius. As Arius gasped, he could only stand and wait in total helplessness. Gaius, too, was moved at the sight of this poor woman. Both men took out several gold coins and placed them in a small leather purse. Both men dismounted and ran toward the front of the procession. Lucius called out to the men that carried the bier, "You men, please stop for a moment." There was a moment's apprehension that two Roman soldiers would stop the procession. Lucius and Gaius made their way to the grief-stricken woman. "Good lady, receive this small token of sympathy from our hand." The woman took the purse full of coins, but was so weighed down with grief she could not speak. A small smile crossed her lips, and she nodded her gratitude at both men. Lucius patted the bier bearer on the back, and the procession started up again. As Lucius and Gaius remounted, Gaius suddenly cried out, "Commander, look down the road!" Look down the road about 20 paces. Lucius looked down the road to see the familiar form of the teacher. He recognized him as well as his 12 followers. They too stood off the road in order that the procession might pass. However, as the procession came up to them, the teacher grabbed the bier and stopped the procession. "What is going on?" Gaius asked. "I cannot tell," Lucius responded. The teacher went over to the woman and spoke with her. "I think the teacher is doing the same thing we did," Gaius observed. Suddenly the teacher walked over to the bier and appeared to be talking to the corpse. Suddenly, without warning, the corpse sat up. Though Lucius and Gaius sat mounted a good 20 paces from the procession, the commotion that passed through the crowd could readily be heard. Oh, there must be a reason why Lucius sent Mark on an errand. Yes, there was. He wanted Mark to speak to the teacher, and he wanted Mark to explain why he had not come to greet him, but that he had faith that the teacher was like he was, in the sense that he was a man of authority who said the soldiers, "Go here," and they went. The servants, "Do this," and they do it. And Mark said, "My master knows that you don't even have to come into his house. He feels ashamed for you to even enter under his roof because he's a Roman and he's shed blood. But he knows that all you have to do is speak the word, and his servant shall be healed." I wish I could write prose like that. Well, I'll tell you this from Bob. Thank you, Bob. It's most kind of you to say. but it's basically from a biblical account, and it's a beautiful thing. And Mark made these comments and said, "My master knows that all you have to do is say the word, and his servant shall be healed." And that's exactly what happened. But now he goes to Nain, and he sees he's unable to talk. Lucius desperately wants to talk to the teacher in person, but every time he gets close to him, he can never speak to him for some reason. He heals the widow's son, brings him back to life. They were carrying him out to bury him. He brings him back to life. And of course, there's a great commotion, and the teacher is carried into the city of Nain, and there sit Lucius and Gaius, but they can't talk to the teacher. He's surrounded by people. So Gaius said, "You want to go into Nain and see if we can talk to the teacher?" And Lucius said, "No, people are rejoicing over this." Peggy G. Davis, what possibly could Lucius want from the teacher? Well, he's already received what he wanted. He wanted the teacher to heal his servant Darius, but he'd like to thank the teacher. And not only did the teacher heal Arius, but he also healed Mark's grievous wound that he received in the battle. He's following after the teacher, not because he wants anything more, but because he wants to thank the teacher for what the teacher's already done for him. And he wants to talk to the teacher himself, man to man. But every time he tries, he just, there's always something in the way. Now, tomorrow, our time's just about up. But tomorrow, we're going to see Lucius goes back to Capernaum. He reports on what he has heard. He's finished his duty. He's heard the teacher, and he's reporting on what he's heard. And Pilate tells him, "I need you to come with me to Jerusalem because I'm fearful that there's going to be trouble." Oh, did Jesus just heal the soldier's shoulder? Yes, he did. He healed the soldier's shoulder as well. He healed his other servant, Mark. He also healed his shoulder. Now, that I do not know. That is not in the scriptural account. That is kind of my own. Janet, so Lucius recognizes Jesus' authority as what? He recognizes his authority as he recognizes Jesus is not an ordinary man. Lucius actually comes to the realization, I think this man is no ordinary human being. I think he's God in the flesh walking around us, because no man can just touch people who are lame and make them walk. No man can touch a leper and make him clean. Only God can do that. So Lucius actually recognizes, although he really doesn't know what to do with his knowledge, but he recognizes that this man is not like any man. He doesn't speak like any man. He says this man is not an ordinary man. And that's why he interceded with the rabbi to talk to him, because he believed that he had belief that Jesus could and was the only hope for his beloved Arius, who was in a coma at death's door. All right, now tomorrow, be with us. We're going to fly low again. We're going to jump on ahead, but you're going to like tomorrow. You're going to like what we look at tomorrow. So come on, love to have you. Book Lucius, A Soldier's Journey. You can see my website, www.reverendmichaelhlavery.com. You can get on my website. Love you to visit. And you can get my book at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and from our good friends at Reader's Magnet, who are so kind to let me have this time. God bless you. Thank you for your good questions. I love your good questions. You ask very intelligent questions, and I enjoy reading them and I enjoy answering them. And thank you for your friendship and for being with me these mornings. God bless you and have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye now.